Hello, this is Joe from Biggest Geekus hosting this week's installment of Gatekeepers. Let me slap that up there, right there. Gatekeepers, keeping the gates, gating the keeps. That's probably not good. I'm going to be using a lozenge because I've got some kind of throat deal. Probably got it from Randy at Cabin Con, or it's from all the junk we kicked up in our garage today when we cleaned it up. All kinds of nonsense was in there. So it might just be an allergic deal. Hopefully that's it. Anyway, we got a few things to talk about tonight. Hopefully I will be joined by a few people. Hello, Shadow and Sun and Hungry Ewok. Waiting for some folks to join me in here. Our live stream link is over in the normal place on Discord. So there was no hard and fast plans on who is joining. Probably only have a couple, maybe 3 extras, so maybe 4 at most. So what we will be talking about tonight we'll be talking about a few things. And among those things are player expectations and how to manage them, perhaps, at least from a rookie DM like me. Let's see, what else did I put up here? Rookie mistakes, rookie DM mistakes, and mimics, and whatever else the others, when they finally do join us, get in here and start yammering about their topics. So, hello, Sean Driscoll, aka something I can't remember now. Sorry about that. Anyway, Sean, welcome. We're going to talk about stuff as soon as this becomes a we and not just a me. This past weekend, oh, hello. We have another to join. Hello.
Hello.
So let me do this. That way we have a little bit of virtual distance between us. Don't want to cooties across the internet there. So waiting for a couple more perhaps to see if we get any more. Did you see what I posted as far as topics?
I did see a topic listing. Let me get back to it into the Discord real quick.
I put it in the video description as well, which was a mistake because if I click it now, it'll play. So
right, that's what I'm actually looking at. Let me pull that up over on my other side. I'm a little disorganized. I literally just came down the stairs and got the PC started up for this. So
yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to or not. I volunteered in case nobody else wanted to. And of course, when you do that, that means you're doing it.
yeah.
Because there wasn't a peep today from anyone to say they were jumping on. So I got out of Bible study at almost 8 and then ate dinner and then dashed up here. So
rookie mistakes, mimics in D&D. Ooh, I like mimics.
I'm going to talk about a particular one that I had the pleasure. It was very pleasurable running it this weekend.
Okay, that's awesome.
I know, I'm not sure what you go by on Discord, but someone mentioned they wanted to talk about mimics. So
I go by Jade on,
yeah, that's true. You do. So that's you there too. So that wasn't you.
Mm-hmm.
It was
no.
James or a James person. Let's see if I can get over there. I know this is gripping programming here. Folks are just we're going to start joining this in droves. because of
Yeah,
the
it was.
masterful way that we string our words together.
No,
Let's
I don't
see.
think I've had the pleasure of streaming alongside you before yet.
No, I don't think so. I think we've watched. I've commented in ones that you have been on. Yeah, David Guile, who so that's the one who was wanting to talk about mimics. So hopefully he shows up. It started at 10 cars, eh, Bruce? Mimic. A mimic is a creature that mimics other creatures. It's just generally represented in dungeons by a chest that, when you open it, teeth come out and eat you. Also, it's very sticky. So you hit it with a weapon, weapon sticks to it. Hit it with your fist, that sticks to it. In this version, it was really tough. So I haven't looked up the old school stats on it. I meant to do that, but I just didn't have time. I was straightening out my garage today. But there's a lot of mimic variants out there as well. Lots of things that are kind of based on the mimic shtick, where they just they used to have house mimics where it would be a whole. Well, there was an adventure with a whole village of buildings that were all mimics.
Oof.
Yeah,
Man, that's rough. I think my favorite was a full suit of plate mail that was a mimic.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, you
Well,
put
it
it
was
on
also.
it. Where are you going to go?
I mean, the players were only like level 4 or 5. It was the
Oh,
first piece of full plate they'd come across.
yeah, that's instant death for
It
that
just,
level of a
yeah,
character.
it just happened to be a mimic.
Oh, that would be a mess. That would be a mess for the dungeon guys to clean up. Clean up in room 10. That mimic got another one.
I think that's also my favorite meme on Facebook a couple years back was a group of adventurers walk into a bar, and they look like they've been through hell. And the bartender goes, "Hard day? Yeah, mimics." The bartender laughs, the players laugh, the table laughs. They killed the table. It was a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry. All right. So is Bruce going to jump in, or is he going to be a voyeur today? I wonder. And hopefully David shows up so we can talk about it with him around. Is there anything you wanted to add to the slate?
Well, I mean, setting good player expectations is a good place to discuss a great number of things. I think you've got actually a pretty good slate here. You know, the expectations, the mistakes, in mimics. I mean, I think that's a pretty well-rounded topic setup.
All right. Because expectations, I think, dovetails well with gatekeeping.
Yes.
Gatekeeping shouldn't be understood as we are trying to stop people from playing the way they want to play at their individual table. Right?
Yeah.
Even if if they're playing Dungeons and Diners instead of Dungeons and Dragons, that's their business. It's more rather gatekeeping the folks that want to impose their will on others.
Households and humans.
Yes, yes. What is it? The baristas, the barista adventure.
Baristas and bars. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's no good. I mean, that's not D&D. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. They're not hurting me. I know among the gatekeepers that might be a naughty thing to say, but and it might be said that folks who do that perpetuate the silliness that is Wizards of the Coast. But they are what they are. We can't really do much about that. And we can use all of our books however we want. Old books, the OSR books, the other game books. But when folks come to your table and try to lay the law down, unless they're DM, and that's their prerogative. I think that's what we really get to here, right? As far as gatekeeping.
Yeah. At least that's been my experience with it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since I ran a Gatekeepers, but I know there's folks with strong opinions about it. So I think that's probably.
Well, I mean,
what stats are you talking about, me or the fake D&D garbage made by OSR? Talking about the monster, man.
As far as like tabletop role-playing games go in general, I'm not going to be, so like hard-lined. It has to be D&D. I'll play index card RPG. I'll play stuff from Apocalypse World or powered by the Apocalypse. Now that I actually understand that system a bit more. So I mean, to me, as far as gatekeeping goes, I don't see it as just strictly D&D.
Well, no, it's a game table. It's the hobby in general.
Right.
A mimic calling something fake. Yes, Mr. Max. I'm forgetting I can highlight these. That is funny. Mimics are one of the funnest monsters, though. One of the most fun to play, to throw at the players, and some did this weekend. Cry foul. How dare you? But we'll get to that. Well, maybe we should plunge into gaming expectations, since we are 20 minutes or 12 minutes in, and we haven't. Bruce is defunkifying himself after his day job, which he would need to do, and then hopefully he will join shortly. Good deal. All right, so this weekend was Cabin Con for the local folks here in our game group, and for those who don't know, Cabin Con for us, we have about 20-ish folks that like to game together in various subgroups and here and there around our local area, and we get together annually, and we hang out for 4 days, and we call it the best 4 days in gaming, as opposed to the other one. And we call it Cabin Con, and we play D&D and other games. And I grabbed my 3rd edition books because I thought it just on a whim. I don't know, I grabbed this and fudge up some 9th level characters with no gear, except a few short swords, some leather armor, and a holy symbol. That's pretty much all they had together. Throw them in without any memories of who they are, where they're at, point them in a direction, and see what they do. So you can call that a bit of a railroad, tiny bit. But I wasn't going to, if they decided not to go in the direction the big arrow pointed, and there was one. Where they landed at was a big burnt impression of a cross, and it pointed in a particular direction, and there was a path there. And they decided to follow it. So it took them to Rapanathuk, which is a mega dungeon. And in it, well, we'll talk about the mimic later, but there is some player expectation things about that. So some complaints I got was that they didn't have any gear. And when they had the opportunity to come back to the tavern that was the only part of civilization that was anywhere near this, they couldn't buy. It's 3rd edition, so the expectation is to be able to buy magic items. Right? That's pretty much the player expectation. And I said, nope. They don't have magic items at a tavern for you to buy. They were able to buy other equipment once they had some money, but they all started out with a couple of copper pieces each. So, but they were able to acquire some treasure and come back. So I guess the expectations they had were that with 3rd edition, you're supposed to have magic items, and they didn't. So that was a complaint. A couple of the monsters had atypical in a very large way stats to their detriment, which they didn't like. And some of them. And then there was a tactic that one of the monsters used, and essentially they used a cursed item against the party. So, which is novel because you certainly don't know an item is cursed until you use it. So, um, and it is a very horrible cursed item, which kills just about anything it comes in contact with, and is big enough pretty much to get the entire party. So the entire party was going to get annihilated, but one person, and this is how I managed some expectations. Their expectations were the magic items. I didn't budge on that. But the other thing was, and I think it's fair, that the use of the cursed item was probably inappropriate. It would have been probably better for it just to be a poison cloud, and what I ended up doing was make it analogous to Stinking Cloud. And so that worked out a little better. And so some would say you shouldn't, retro back and fix things, but I felt it was a little heavy-handed of the module to do that because it's instant death. It's the 2d6 Constitution damage on a failed save, and the DC is high. And then a minute later, another D6.
Wow, that's Black Lotus extract damage.
Yeah, so everybody's pretty much going to bite it. So actually, well, one character died. I think the other ones were going to be in a World of Hurt. And then their stats weren't very high either, so I didn't do the typical 3rd edition weigh out their stats. So they had the Elite Array, which starts at 15 and goes all the way down to 8. And gave them a couple of bumps. So the highest stat in the party was 17. Nobody had an 18. Nobody had a 20. So their numbers weren't great, but they weren't bad either. They're 9th level. So what I didn't do, and I don't think I need to, is lay out a bunch of stuff at the beginning, because that would spoil some of the mystery and whatnot from the module and the shock, because it's a little horrific to know that you're going into Rapanathuk, which is a death trap dungeon with no gear, right? And I was intending that to be kind of this is going to be dangerous, even for 9th level characters, but they have some capabilities to make up for it. But what do you think? Should I have said, hey, this is what we're doing. You're not going to have any gear. What do you think?
I'd probably start off the section with saying, hey, this is whatever level. You will have access to this small select set of gear, if any. Don't expect magic items at the gate. Don't expect to be able to purchase magic items out the gate. You will have to fight an uphill battle to achieve most things. It will be very challenging. I will skin things as necessary to not outrightly obliterate the entire night. I mean, I say that correctly, obliterate the night, not necessarily the party. Because, we're all here to, have fun at the table, GMs included. So anything I can do as a game master to not destroy the night, the mood mostly, I'm going to try to avoid that. But I would say, hey, here's what's going to happen. Here's the overall theme. You're going to be struggling against a dungeon crawl. I'm not going to tell them that it's Rapanathuk. I'm not going to tell them that, hey, you can't just go to any tavern or any magic shop to buy items. I'm going to say magic items are very, very limited and few. Like they're just not going to be laying around.
Well, they are in Rapanathuk. There's a lot of them. There's a lot.
But they're going to have
They
to
do
still
have to win
climb
them.
that uphill. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
going to have to climb that uphill battle to achieve and earn them. So the magic items are earned, not purchased. So
Right.
I would probably say on the onset, hey, don't expect me to just give you magic items. You have to earn them through combat, through trials, through puzzles, whatever it might be. I've never been through Panathuk, so I don't know exactly what to expect. So I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. But I would set those, expectations so they know when they're getting into it is like, okay, maybe I want to play a rogue. Maybe I should play somebody with some evasion skill or some ability to minimize my incoming damage.
I made all the characters.
Oh, you made the characters.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's kind of different.
Yeah. So this is the setup. So it's Cabin Con. It's all one shots unless you want to port your home game
Okay.
there. So it's one shots.
Okay.
So we provide in a lot of circumstances pre-gens. So that's what I did. And I had a hard time finding third edition pre-gens. And it was real last minute. So I was making them up there. And I can find first level pre-gens of any system just about anywhere, but ninth level in particular. So I just made them all up. I didn't want to worry about gear, so that's mainly why I didn't have it, because I didn't want it. I didn't want to have to take the time to select it. So and I altered how skills are done because the fiddliness of the third edition 3.5 Pathfinder rank structure is too fiddly for me, and that would have taken a long time too. So I just wrote some skill-like things on their character sheets, and I modified class abilities too. It was experimental to say the least. So so there was some. It's not, and none of us have played third edition in quite a while, so I felt that all that stuff was fine because it's not going to be confusing because you can't remember what third edition was anyway. So a lot of it, the specifics. So I made the characters, so it's not like they were choosing.
Okay.
It's a one shot. Okay. So with one shots, especially at Cabin Con, we don't do a lot of preamble. We just sit down, hand out characters, maybe a little discussion. We had some of that.
Okay.
And I just basically said it's third edition with some modifications, your ninth level. And I went into yeah.
I apparently had misunderstood or missed the one-shot aspect of it. In one-shots, I would say maybe a little bit of a preface is necessary. It's like, hey, here's the level of characters. These are the pre-gens that you can select from. We are going to X place. You're going to be in an uphill slog the entire time, and let's go. And then present
that was
the
essentially what I did.
Scenario. Yeah.
I didn't tell them it was for Panathuk.
I mean, if they don't like it, they can always get up and leave the table.
Right. It's a one shot, so I don't know why people were that upset. Maybe it was a head scratcher. I could do the head scratcher thing, like, that's kind of high. But yeah. So all this to say, they had some of them had some expectations that weren't met. But I'm not really sure that apart from, especially when you're playing with a bunch of friends, right? And we're all friends. We've known each other for 10 plus years. How important is it to you as a DM? We'll go around. How important is it to you to set expectations? Do you think it's important? Do you think it's a little overblown? Do you think the players should just suck it up and roll their dice? So I think, Jade, if you want to finish out, you said some of that already.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm running a game, rather, that I'm expecting it to run for a while or, not be a one-shot, I'm going to set my levels of expectations as well as what the players can expect, around the different turns and overall themes and whatnot ahead of time so that they're not necessarily browbeaten or kind of pushed in a direction they they didn't expect. Like I'll say, hey, here's the expectations. These are the things you should be looking for. And if it catches you by surprise, awesome. If you get upset about it, I warned you ahead of time.
Gotcha.
I mean,
Mr.
I'm not
Bruce,
going
are
to give
you
the whole
ready
thing
to?
away.
I'm
No
ready.
problem.
I've been waiting patiently, and you were mentioning Repanic Puck earlier. I want to go back just for a second. Did you run the whole cross of the above ground level of Repanic Puck? Did they see the statue at the foot of the cross?
Oh yeah, they
Okay,
found the key
they got the key. That's important
because
because
I actually had to say oops because they went for the big building. Who wouldn't?
of
So
course, but
so I didn't I forgot that statue was basically on the way to it, depending on how they approach it and from the direction they approached it. Yes, they would have seen that statue. So I said, oh, before you go in, here's the statue you passed. Describe described it and waited. They almost didn't look for it. Almost didn't investigate the statue. They were like, how,
then that would have been their problem.
sure,
For
because
those,
that first trap is a doozy.
yeah, that first trap is a TPK.
Yeah,
If
instant.
you don't have a key, then you start to get lowered into Repanic Puck, but you're dead because it's a crushing trap in an elevator, basically.
There's a secret door, but if you're trying to search for it like frantically, I think that there's the DC is
40.
Yeah, but they weren't going to find it like that.
No,
But
you're not going to
since
find it
they
like that.
used the key, it was a lot easier to find the secret door and get downstairs and into the dungeon proper.
Yeah, and that black skeleton is kind of rough too because he has a strength. He has a debilitating hit that saps your strength.
Right.
So yeah, that makes me really happy you ran Repanic Puck. It's probably one of my favorite dungeons out there from the old school set. And not enough people have actually played it. It's a rite of passage, and
Right.
it just I know I sound like I'm smoking the pole for Frog God, but that earned every accreditation. But don't run it for 5th edition because 5th edition the translation is so weak and tepid compared to the 3E and Pathfinder versions.
Well, and it does need some translation because I believe they made errors.
Yes.
And some of the errors were, I think, in the monster stats because the DR for some of the damage reduction stat for a lot of the monsters is well above typical.
Well, I would like for Dungy's damage reduction is either 20, I think it's 20 or epic. So if you're not smacking with an epic weapon, good luck.
Right.
And Dungy is I'll let you describe him later, but Dungy is one of my favorite characters in that entire module.
Right. Right. So apart from what you just said, do you have anything to say about expectations? Are they important and all that?
Yeah, it is. Like this last Saturday, when you guys were doing Cabin Con, I was running my own game and I ran a 9-hour session. And that's on the web. That's on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of people say, this is probably one of the best sessions you've ran in a long time. And I feel like I finally have got my groove back. And we had everybody here that was playing from the United States. So we didn't have to shut down at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock because somebody's in Scotland 7 hours ahead. No offense to Joe over in Scotland, but when he's not there, we're going to run late. And when he's there, we're going to shut down early because I want to be respectful to him and have him experience the entire, doom and gloom in his, personal glory. But he wasn't there. So I ran for a 9-hour session and everybody just had a ball. And one of the guys told me afterwards, like, I haven't played like that in decades. And then Shadow and Sons playing in that campaign too.
Right. I noticed that. Yeah. So what did you do to handle or manage expectations in that game?
I really didn't let him have a moment to breathe. Whenever we were going from decision to action to initiative to combat actions, I was trying to step on their toes the whole time. What are you doing? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? And I want to make it to where I need you to make snap decisions. We can't sit back and let a committee decide this shit. You are there. Your life is at stake. And,
right, especially in the thick of it. Sure.
Yeah. And so I didn't let them have any time to really sit back and relax. Now, 3 sessions ago, I gave them 6 weeks. Tell me what you're doing for 6 weeks. Are you crafting? Are you researching spells? What type of spells are you going to research? What are you going to craft? What materials do you have? What are you asking of your refugees as they go throughout their day to help you find in the local area? And so I did give them a little bit of a respite, but that time's over. And it's time for them now. They need to be on their toes. So whenever I say I'm managing expectations, I really don't want to give the players a lot of room to try to plan ahead. As much as like someone like Jade, if he was a player, he wants to have like a spreadsheet, a flow chart ready to go, and he will. he's good at that. He'll try to think 5 or 6 steps ahead of you. But you want to make the decisions that are going to help you now. And as a DM, you need to press them on the fact we're not trying to pre-plan anything. Your life is at stake. Within the next 30 seconds, it could be over. I need to know how you're going to conduct yourself. And the players reacted very well.
Gotcha. So they're seat of the pants most of the time. So expectations are out the window.
Yeah. If they survive, they're happy.
Groovy. So, Mr. G Rock, what say you about player expectations and what you do and how important do you think they are?
Well, if you guys watched from a couple weeks ago, I had my session 0, and I basically gave them, the backstory of what they're doing. It was a D6 plus 10 was what they got for their rolls, for their stats, for Marin Pathfinder First Ed. And I explained to them, hey, you guys are second string fighters. When Farmer Brown needs a little pack of kobolds routed out of his garden, you're the people he's going to call. When the sewers need the rats, population reduced, you're the ones that are going to go. Because eventually, and I hope none of them are watching, but they should. But basically, it's going to be like a 0 to kind of hero type progression, and I run that entire thing off the top of my head. I don't pre-plan anything. I've got a couple of websites that I can just click to, like, quote unquote, generate quests, and
sure.
That's what I go with.
Like dungeons, literally, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what I do. That's the style that I typically run, and I find that if I'm running that way, and unbeknownst to my players, I don't know what the hell I'm going to be doing. They sure in the hell ain't going to figure out what I'm doing either. And
so
and
expectations are kind of out the window there too.
Oh yeah. The expectation is we're going to come to the table. We're going to sit down. We're going to roll some dice. We're going to have some fun. We're either going to kill some stuff, or the healer's going to get bit in the ass by a giant ant, which is exactly what happened on that. She was on watch, and she got her, and an ant snuck up on her, a giant ant, because they're in the jungle area, and an ant came and right on her butt. So now her butt actually has a permanent swell, which is kind of funny. But yeah, the one thing I will say is that I was one of the lucky ones that got to run while Bruce was doing his Rapanathok campaign. And once we found out that this was a Temple of Orcus and we we're going to have to destroy something, we did think ahead. Bruce was not a fan of our way of going ahead and taking care of this.
You guys did pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I wish we could have finished that campaign.
I would have loved that first salvo. That's all I have to say. I would have loved to have seen the damage rolls on that first salvo. Basically, we came up with the D&D equivalent of WMDs. Portable hole rolled up in a glass tube attached to an arrow with a bag of holding tied to the front of the arrow.
Oh,
Because when you put an interdimensional space in an interdimensional space, that's a lot of damage.
did it always work?
Like, yeah, because the glass is going to break on impact. And the
No,
portable
it's just
hole is going to
intended.
fall out. I mean, the portable hole is going to fall off, and it's going to, the arrow is going to just fall into that, and being that the bag is attached to it, it's going to happen. So yeah, I think it's like at the epicenter, it's like 50 d6 damage. If I remember
As it-
Though
correctly.
you run out of money to make.
So
those
you were able to
arrows.
go buy a bunch of portable holes?
We actually had an artificer, or not an artificer, but a crafter. So that's what he, our as we like to call him, our resident Mormon, crafted a bunch of stuff for us. So yes,
Hey,
love
fine, then.
him to death. And yeah, it was like the perfect way of boom. Oh, you out of Urpanithuk, you can actually pull a lot of gold.
Oh yeah.
Just for the simple fact of what's in there, what you can take, what you can sell, what you can't sell normally, like the cursed items. The church sure in hell buy them off of you for a good price because they want the cursed shit off the street.
Well, that first encounter with the gargoyles, they all have 500 gold piece gems in their eyeball sockets.
Yeah.
2 of them times 8. So 16 500 gold piece gems turn these guys from in poverty to absolutely not. So they could have stopped adventuring and lived off the profits forever.
Joe, I've got to say that those gems that the gargoyles have in their eyes will, if they are left intact within a D10 plus 4 days, they reform a gargoyle.
Oh, I overlooked that.
I do want you to be aware of that.
So I have a rookie mistakes
why-
area in this discussion tonight, and there's a few I made.
I made a rookie mistake with the fucking artificer in my game, and I should have found a way to get around that. But
I know what the mistake was.
what's that?
Having it.
You could say that, but there's casters in the dungeon, and on their spell list, like every caster, every wizard in the dungeon, or most of the clerics also have dispel magic, and if they see that loading up into a bow and arrow, oh no, no, stop that, and it'll make it malfunction for about D4 plus 2 rounds. So you would have time for them to launch an offensive based off that, because the players would be kind of they would have their regular mental loop disrupted, their OODA loop.
Meh. But you know what? It does though. When you do release a little bit of that design and control, it makes a great story.
Uh-oh, you said the S word.
But it does. It does. And
sometimes
truthfully,
sometimes it can become a big mess of a story too.
That's true. Sometimes it can become a crazy type thing. But yeah, I know that one of the things that you put in there was in the title here was the mimic, and I'm assuming since you were talking about Urpanithuk, that you were talking about the dung monster.
Oh yeah. Well.
Oh yeah.
Isn't the dung monster something separate from, or is that the
book? No,
that's the same thing, right?
That's the
title of a paragraph.
Yeah, that's his actual
title.
But yeah, let's see.
The old school stats on that are way high.
Oh yeah,
and it says in it it's pretty much unkillable, so it's kind of a force of nature.
Yeah, and even if you trap it within 1 D4 days, or even teleport it away within 1 D4 days, it's back.
Right. So once they encountered it, I had it moving around.
Oh, but the thing is, it moves
Slow.
5 feet around. 5 feet around.
10.
Oh, is it 10? I thought it was
10.
5.
It's a very slow monster.
Yeah, you can run away from it easily.
Yeah, they ran away, but they didn't go back. So They didn't try to figure out if it was going to go into the toilet stall, or they weren't going to figure out what was to be found, if anything, in its lair. And they could have, but we'll save that for another installment of Repanathook, which I intend to try to get through in a cabin con. It'll be difficult, but
yeah, I've actually got the reloaded.
Yeah, I have the original books.
Yeah,
Three
I've got the reloaded when I got them for dirt cheap off of, I think it was Humble Bundle or something like that.
The PDFs.
The PDFs, and I'm actually trying to find the stats.
It's in the first section.
Yeah, well, it actually takes all three books and puts it together into one.
Smushes it.
The first level.
It's in the first level.
Yeah.
There's the ground level, and I know in Reloaded they added a bunch of stuff. So.
In the new Pathfinder version.
Oh, here it is. Here.
Joe's got 250 maps for Repanathook for the new version.
Right. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
I'm not upset about that.
So that is an expectation we can talk about. Are you going to share?
Yeah, I'm going to share. I found it. So yeah, this is the mutated mimic. Let's see, blind sight, 90 feet, DR magic, 25 magic, immune to cold, acid, electricity, fire, paralysis, poison, polymorph, sleep effects, sonic, stunning. Immune to all mind effects, immunity to critical hits, non-lethal damage, ability damage, and drain energy levels, fatigue, and exhaustion. No run. Regen, 25 around. Rejuvenation, SR 100.
That's double the number in the original is 50.
Yeah.
And 50 you can't get.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just these stats alone is ungodly. But if you
Can you do
if you look
Control
at the actual,
plus to enlarge?
Oh, I can.
There we go.
But yeah, it has acid, adhesive, and engulf.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it doesn't have a whole bunch of hit points.
140.
140 has initiative plus a speed of 10 feet, a climb of 10 feet, which try to figure that because it's shaped like a toilet.
Right.
And I love the background of how it got its powers. That is the greatest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it was a mimic, and a magister sat down, and this mimic ate him, snapped his staff of power, and got all this stuff.
Right. Magical accident
just
created
yeah
ultimate monster here. Though it's as long as you don't touch it or go near it, it's pretty much not that dangerous. It stays in one spot unless it's disturbed, pretty much. It doesn't go around hunting things. Not really. But, it's not nice, that's for sure.
No, it's not. It's really not nice at all.
So,
yeah.
So on the world building, which could be an expectation of some players, especially nowadays. I know that in our group we have played a lot of 13th Age, and in that, an expectation is that you participate in the world building, in the story elements, in the narrative, and while initially when we played, I kind of enjoyed that a little bit. I found it really troublesome, especially when the players want to, use it for their advantage. And then you have other people who have absolutely no idea what to even do. So I think it has a meta currency that you use to do these narrative changes and story changes. And it's just stuff that I'm not interested in, because you have people saying things about their character that might not comport with the game world. Like, I'm half dead. I'm like, really? Which we played 13th Age, and someone said that, and I was like, okay. I wasn't the DM, so I just sat there and went along with it. I just thought it was weird. And so you can have people that might make it interesting, but then you can have people that kind of hijack it. And I'd rather just play. Getting involved in the narrative to the point where I'm like authoring narrative to the DM, it's kind of, to me, it's odd.
That works better in game systems like Fate or Powered by the Apocalypse game engines, where player choices can kind of edit or influence the game world or the campaign world they're in. Not necessarily always to their advantage, but to their to a point where they can work from. You also get that with GMs who are experienced with those kind of systems, or experienced with even the player, players who want to influence the world will allow things like that because it might give the GM a jumping off point to head down a different direction with the campaign, or present potential opposition at a later point. So I'm not necessarily against players advocating for certain world elements or world building elements. I can work with just about anything someone throws at me. But I have to come up with, or they have to come up with, a good reason as to why that thing or that element or that thing is there. There has to be a good reason for it.
Right. And 13th Age comes with that built in. So that's fine for 13th Age. But when sometimes those kinds of expectations, including kind of the 13th Age, where heroes to start out with and everything pretty much goes our way, which is pretty much 13th Age, is an expectation that might, and 5th edition is kind of like that too, can carry over to other games. It can just live in the player's mind, and it's just part of how they want to play, which to me kind of limits, in a way, limits where they can take that, because D&D is not made for that. I would say there are many game systems aren't really made for that, but there are a lot of the modern ones are. I just don't find it. I don't find it appealing, mainly because it can become a jumbled mess of people reskinning everything they have to their heart's content. If the DM or GM lets them.
And the GM has to assert some amount of control over the game. The game master, this has actually been said in chat, the game master is final say. They say yes or they say no, and the players either have to agree with that or walk away from the table.
Sure thing. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Are we still going to talk about mimics, or you're not done with those, are you?
No, we haven't really truly started.
Okay.
Well, let me talk about this point that we were just talking about. You also do have things within game systems for that world building. So,
Sure.
like for instance, like Pathfinder, you've got Kingmaker, which actually I kind of like, because it is kind of sandboxy, but everything's on a timeline, and it's kind of like a pick your path, because if you go north to take care of something, whatever was supposed to be in the south you were there to take care of still happens.
Right.
and then you have to come back and so I mean that type of aspect, I think if you're running your game in a world building and something like that, I think that works a lot better, because now the players have to figure out what's going to be our biggest threat, and what do we need to put down first, and then what can be taken out second. That's the biggest thing right there. And I mean, you don't even need the kingmaker setting to do that. I mean, as a DM, you can have your own timetable of things that are going to happen, and depending on what the players choose, can lead you to other story arcs and everything else, or even wind up blindsiding the players later on down the road and whatnot. So I mean, it like I know Jade has never done that before.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Player choice leads to consequences. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I'm a firm believer in that. If a player goes, "Yeah, I'm going to burn this town to the ground," okay, well, what the natural reaction to that's going to be? They're going to become, the most wanted in the kingdom, and the kingdom's not going to stop until either they're dead, captured, in jail, or all three, in whatever order. So I mean, I am a firm believer in actions having consequences, and I've said it multiple times, on multiple different stream nights. So yeah, it's a puppy. So yeah, I do that often. I will blindside my players with mistakes that they chose to make, or choices they made and didn't fully understand the ramifications of said choices.
Alrighty then. I think what we'll do is, instead of talking about rookie mistakes, we can leave that for the end, and delve into the mimic. So I saw something here in the chat about something starting on Tenkar's channel.
Mm-hmm. I threw the link over at the RPG media side over there.
Oh, okay. So that they could come and join if they wanted to.
If they want to come and watch, yeah. Now Tenkar's doing his tavern chat tonight, so you probably won't make a lot of a divot in there, but
right.
I always try to throw an extension out there, like, hey, you guys want to come listen to us discuss things? Because a lot of us are of the Gen X, but we don't fall into the we've got to play Bro SR.
Correct.
Like most of us are into either 3rd edition or Pathfinder or whatever.
Lots of different games.
Age. Yeah. So we have our own. We've got our darling that we play, that we like to cater to, and we know how we want to play. So, while we do like the idea of, oh, you're playing race as class, that's awesome. No, it doesn't really happen at our tables.
I don't blame modern GMs. I blame DMs who are afraid to say no. Correct. Especially to a pretty girl. Yeah, that's a no-no.
I mean, to anyone, really.
Yeah.
Well, it does depend. Is that his girlfriend or wife? Because sometimes I've seen that happen at tables too.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I have chosen to sleep on the couch for decisions I have made where my, the expectation was presented to me and I said no.
That's hilarious. So
I've killed not this one, but I've killed my girlfriend in
you're not supposed to say that on air. Okay. That might get you in trouble, dude.
Okay. Well, whenever my girlfriend and I played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, her character had the most deaths out of all the rest of the table. She rolled up more characters than anybody.
I think in the previous game, the Wrath of the Righteous game I ran, I killed my wife's character at least twice.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like to, when she DMs, she doesn't like to kill off the characters. She likes the game to continue. That's fine. But she doesn't care if her character dies when she's playing. So it's fine either way. So the mimics. So what was there a 10-car tavern issue about mimics? I mean, did they have a problem with them, or were they just going to talk about them?
We were talking about it in one of the 10-car or Frog God discords in the last few days. We were talking about mimics, trappers, lurker above, all of the adhesive type of blobbish sort of nemesis aberrations or oozes that are in the game. And whenever you mention these things to old school players, they have two reactions, like, "Oh, that's so cool," or "Man, I'm not playing your game." One of those two. You never get that. "Oh, that's nice." You never get that tepid response. Either you're gonna scare the hell out of somebody because you're using a trapper. Yeah, cloakers.
Cloaker dance. Okay.
Oh my god, the mating ritual of the cloaker. Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Dance of the
Where's
cloaker.
Zach when we need him? Oh god.
Oh yeah.
Because he would actually sit there. No.
He would actually start
He-
to mutilate.
Yeah, he made up a whole mating dance of the cloakers. It was amazingly bad.
Yeah, I would imagine.
The there's a part of Rapanathuk Pathfinder Edition. Don't know if it's in Reloaded. I don't have Reloaded. But in the 4th level, 4B level, the gut, you're going through a bunch of portions of the underground, and they have a map of like 5 rooms, and then it leaves. And then it connects over here and map of another 5 or 6 rooms, and it leaves it. Finally, you get to this one place where there's a sign above a door of a succubi. And it's an underground inn. So you can go and have a beer with an ogre or some goblins at the table. And they've got some rooms you could rent. And,
Is that in the orc colony?
It's like a little orcish goblin colony area called the Last One Inn. And they've got 5 places to sleep. One of them they rent out real cheaply because there's a trapper disguised as a rug. It doesn't even require you to clean it up because the way that the trappers are described, they have that little sticky adhesion that they turn on, and they just kind of digest you slowly, and you're just kind of stuck there as it strangles you and smothers you and gives you a nice big hug, and then you're gone. And there's no bones, there's no mess, it's no fuss. The goblins come in and scrub a little bit of blood off the floor, and that's it. But if you sleep on the bed at night, the trapper comes up on the bed, grabs you, and takes you off the bed, and it's over. It's a
succubus, though, right?
Say again.
The inn is run by a succubus.
No succubus. It's got a succubus on the sign, and that's it.
And what kind of?
If you want to add one, you can.
But they're evil demi-humans that run the place.
Yes.
So, okay.
It is a TPK. That's
sure.
If you read the entire description of all 7 rooms together, the more you read it, the more you realize they've got myconids, they've got these poison mushrooms over here. This is a TPK.
Yep.
And it's well designed. It's set up as an RP event. It goes. Once it starts, it's an avalanche.
So the lesson is don't sleep there.
Correct.
Why do you want to close your eyes and have evil demi-humans at your back? That doesn't make any sense.
Not a good idea.
Unless you're their buds. I mean, if you're evil too, they might not. They might warn you.
Yeah.
Or might not, depending on if you have stuff they want.
That's usually how the demi-humans are. I thought let's wait for the cleaning crew to finish up in their room because they've got some magic weapons I want. They've got a magic armor that the female's wearing. We got to get that.
Yeah.
It's a good setup. The Rapanathuk in and of itself is just it's an iconic dungeon. There's no other way to put it. You can try to run it piecemeal, but really run it as it's intended, as that one giant piece, and let your players decide if they flee or if they fail. Because everything before 5th edition, nobody had beaten it properly. People had cheated. They would like roll up a 20th level character. They'd say, okay, we've played through it all. We're gonna fight Orcus, and like 1% actually won. But nobody's gone through it and properly beat it. And then 5th edition took all the teeth out of Rapanathuk, so I don't even classify that as an actual Rapanathuk. It's like a Rapanathuk in name only.
But they went out there and got that 5th edition money.
Yeah,
which I guess is fine for them. So the 10 car thing was basically some people complain and some people like it.
Yes, a lot of people like it, but nobody wants to play it.
Well, the mimics with mimics.
Yeah, nobody wants to mess with that. Oh wait, you use mimics in your dungeon? I don't want to. No, I'm good. I'm good. When's our next organized play? When are we going to do the next series of organized play modules? They start trying to fish for that.
Right. Cakewalk modules.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about mimics for a while. And if whoever is listening isn't completely sure what a mimic is, if you haven't caught the beginning, we kind of described them earlier. They're basically a little oozy monster that pretends it shape changes into something. The iconic thing is a treasure chest. And when you go to open it, a pseudopod whips out and smacks you upside the head to stick it to you. So kind of like a tongue. And then it draws you in and eats you. Face first.
If only we could highlight Shadzar's character avatar.
Yeah, that works.
Which, I mean, truthfully, they've had mimics in pretty much, looking at D&D wise, in pretty much every edition. First edition, they were basically subterranean animals that, didn't like daylight, and they could mimic either stone, wood, so they'd be like doors, stonework, chests, stuff like that. And over the editions, they've really started to evolve.
Right, they make a lot of mimic-like creatures.
Correct. Right. Yeah, all the way, through to where they're a mimic, like they have like a little flower, and it's kind of like almost like a Venus flytrap type deal. These animals come,
right,
done. So I mean, it's. But if you want to go back to like the very beginning part, basically they were subterranean type creatures. As described in the monster manual, and they were either chests, doors, stonework. They even could take on just like stone. So I mean, really, they didn't do like the animals, the other things that later editions know now.
Yeah, they weren't doppelgangers.
No.
Yes.
So
which is kind of what they've evolved into almost.
Right. So we took a look at the mimic from Rapanathuk, and it's hyper tough, designed to be unkillable, designed more as if your players are stupid, it'll be a TPK. But if they're smart, like the group I was running, they ran away, and then hilarity will ensue because it can follow them around and cause them to poop their pants. It's in the shape of a toilet.
You know the story behind it, right?
Yes, we talked about that. Wizard got 8. The Staff of the Magi busted open and changed it.
Yes.
Hello, Cigar.
We're missing one. Wait, we're missing one person here. And then you've got Wednesday night table breakers going on.
So I believe that we're talking about mimics and whatnot. I saw a little bit of the chat earlier. Before I got back.
Right. So we're back into that. We're talking about mimics, and I like as a player, if the DM is willing to throw in a mimic, I'm going to like that DM mostly. It's going to be a challenge for me as a player, and it's going to be a tough row to hoe, but it'll be worth it. Unfortunately, my primary DM, Randy, doesn't like to hand out the treasure very much. So sometimes it's not worth it. But he's getting better
Mimics are
about that.
fun in concept. Think I've only dealt with 2 of them in my my gaming experience, and the party I'm with right now, my Monday night party, they joke, it's like, "Oh no, don't sit on the chair, it's a mimic." I'm like, I haven't thrown a mimic at you guys as of yet, because Pathfinder does not have mimics in it.
Yes, it does.
Does it?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a strictly a D&D thing. Sort of like
Yeah,
Beholder.
that's Beholder.
Yeah,
What's
well,
that?
the module doesn't call for any mimics, but I might just throw one in there anyways.
Yeah, throw it in there. Challenge those players. They'll love it. Well,
We laughed. The table laughed. The table's now firewood.
28 millimeter.
Yeah, Mimics CR4 in Pathfinder.
I mean, I kind of joked around. Everybody's joked around about mimics. I mean, I think they're one of the biggest topics out there, at least in the gaming world. Because I can't think of one conversation gaming wise where mimics hasn't get thrown in somewhere. How do you stop a horny bard? You make a mimic glory hole. I'm like, oh my god.
yeah, if he sticks it in there, he deserves to get 8.
I mean, I've seen mimics as a bunch of different things: doors, chests, suits of armor, weapons. I think my favorite was actually a signet ring. My actual favorite was a signet ring. Granted, he's not going to eat much, but he had a psionic ability or a psychic ability that it fooled you into thinking that your appendage wasn't gone and it was slowly feeding off your life force.
So like a vampiric ring, but
yeah, it was a vampiric
you.
ring. But it was a mimic. And when you looked at your hand, you thought the finger or the appendage that was there was yours, and it moved and articulated like yours. So you had no reason to think of it otherwise. But all the while, over the course of months and or years, it was slowly decreasing your constitution. But in inverse to that, it was increasing, I think, one of the mental stats.
So what about the party? Wouldn't they notice that too? His hand being turned into pulp?
No, because the mimic, once it latched onto him, it was able to manipulate itself into looking like his own flesh. It was just the hand was starting to turn darker and darker, almost as if it was getting gangrene.
Well,
yeah,
they're going to notice something sooner or later.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, I think the Strippers Guild has something like that too.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting.
Go off, the cock ring, pop that on there. Yep.
No.
From a mile away.
No.
Oh, I thought I hid that better. I'm sorry.
Ouch time. 28 millimeter. Yeah. Mimic loincloth.
No,
yeah.
The cock ring would be worse.
Yes. On the Facebook, every once in a while I'll see ads for this company that they'll sell you the stuff that you can print out at home on your 3D printer. And one set was a mimic set, and they had an outhouse that looked like a mimic. They had a Christmas tree that looked like a mimic, and all this wonderful stuff. I'm like, that is amazing. I mean, on my own collection of figs, I have the traditional chest that looks like a mimic, and I have a cake that looks like a mimic.
I mean, the dread gazebo.
Yeah,
gazebo mimic.
Or you could just put a gazebo and watch the players not understand what it is and then attack it as a monster.
Yep.
Ah, Bruce knows.
Are you trying to say it's a gazebo placebo?
We are now.
What's the
Jake-
gazebo doing? It's just there, man. I'm gonna fire an arrow at it.
Yep.
Cast magic missile into the darkness.
The darkness
Exactly.
is yum. Can I have another?
Do we think there's a fairness element? Because I heard that last weekend about
Mimics?
Okay,
in our game. I don't think fairness is a word we should use. I think it's a
Nope.
naughty word.
If you are going into a dungeon and you describe your character with all the skills, I'm super perceptive. I have the eyes of the eagle. I am a Native American tracker. I can smell a trap, and your character is just like trying to run through room, and you're really not trying to role play the fact that you are astute and you study everything. I'm going to kill your half Native American tracker. He's dead. He's going to run into a room, and he's not going to notice a mimic door or the
Green
saw
slime.
blade out of the room. He's
The
just
green
gonna-
slime that falls on him when he goes through this door.
Yeah.
Then when he comes back as a halfling, he gets killed again. Then gets turned into a troglodyte. Then gets killed again by the town, and now he's an elf.
and then a G cube just drops out of nowhere.
I did that too. So when they were running from the mimic, in this dungeon, you roll random encounters every 30 minutes, whatever that means.
Yes.
I just did it when I felt like it. And up came a gelatinous cube. And so they were so shell-shocked from the mimic that they were like, oh no, it's a gelatinous cube. We're dead. Ah. Some of them were. But I was like, this such a bunch of girls. It's only your 9th level and it's a gelatinous cube. Are you serious?
A few arrows, it's dead.
Yeah, so they don't have a lot of hit points. And they decided to fight it, and they won pretty easily. The way I presented it was a suit of armor was kind of coming toward them, kind of floating, and they instantly got it. It's a mimic. Yeah.
So I'm running down in Poplar Bluff.
I mean, it's a gelatinous cube. Yeah.
I'm running down in Poplar Bluff, and they fight. Actually, they bump into a mimic, and the mimic eats the. I think that it was not a draw. I think it was a druid. One of them had a familiar that was a dog. Yeah, it was a druid because he played a pothead druid. I'm like, whatever. And the mimic ate his dog. Well, they start to fight the mimic, and one of them cast Ray of Infimble, and a bunch of weird stuff happened, and one of them rolled a d20. And it made the mimic forget that it was a mimic. And so it's just hopping around all of a sudden, then turns itself into a dog. Because the last thing he ate was a dog. And it's just start following the character around thinking it was the dog that belonged to the druid. So I lovingly call them Scooby and Shaggy.
I don't think you can feeble mind a mimic, but
Nope.
No.
but
No,
Nope.
but
it worked for your game, I guess.
I just, I'm dealing with players that pay to go there. So even if the rule of cool, and I hate that term, I really do. I hate using it, but I was trying to make them want to come back the next week.
So player expectations are important for you as a paid DM.
Right.
Much more important than for those of us who don't take money. I would, if any of my players wanted to hand me some cash, I would certainly take it. But for you, if you're doing it as like a side hustle or whatever, you have to please your players. Or you might be able to attract a bunch of players who like a killer DM or just a harsh DM or one who's not catering to them. You might be able to find folks that will pay for that. But I think the folks that pay pretty much want you to give them a fun time.
Yeah. A fun time. I find in the world of professional D&D or pathfinding or whatever, it's easier just to make sure the players at the table have a good time, because if they're more willing to come back and sometimes bring a friend. I know there's this weird level that you can't cross this line, but
like that works for GMs who I guess are a bit masochistic and don't really care about the game itself. So long as the players are having a good time and so long as their pocket is getting lined, you know, I don't know. I kind of disagree with the entire concept of that. You know, as a game master of 20 plus years, I will set the expectations at the table, and I will have full on veto rights on whatever the players come up with. Like that's GM 101. Like, you are the master of the game, not the players. And if the players want to, you know, fuck around and you know, do incredibly stupid things, if that's the game they want to play, well, I'll get up from the table and one of them can and GM, and I will walk away from it, because that's not how I roll my table. You know, if players get offended, you know, by me saying, you know, setting the expectations and not, you know, and vetoing things that they come up with, you know what? That's a them problem, not necessarily a me problem. I set the expectation at the table, and if they don't like it, the door's over there. They can go.
I'm going to interrupt for a moment. I get the reference here. Up from the ground comes gelatinous cube. Death jello, that is. No XP, no gold. So they moved away from there. Missing an R, but I get it.
Beverly Hill Rollbillies.
Soon to be paced. Is it only one shots as a paid DM? I think they do campaigns too.
No, I do campaigns too. It's when I did that, I was fairly new at it, and I was more concerned with putting butts into seats, and I was actually concerned about the integrity of the game. As it went along, I went back to more of the integrity of the game. I was just trying, like I said, put butts in seats so I can start telling a story, because if you don't have butts in seat, there is no story.
There's no game.
There's no game.
Sure. If you don't have enough people to play, then don't have enough people to play.
It doesn't matter where it's like, well, I'm a serious DM. If you don't have the X amount of numbers for the character, for the story, for the campaign to go, you're just playing with your thumbs in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
All right, until I get 4 people, we're playing Fate. I'll run Dresden for you.
Nope.
Do that.
As much as I love Dresden, I fucking hate that system.
That system, what is the Dresden system again? I forgot.
It's Fate.
It's Fate.
It's decent.
Fate.
I might have had a bad DM. I don't know what it was. I didn't run it, but I was involved in it down when I was living in Poplar Bluff and had a horrible time with it.
So you like Dresden, the books, but you're not a fan of the game.
Yeah.
I played it one time, so I can't really say.
The RPG system is well written. Like, those guys,
Yeah, it is.
They knew what they were doing, and they took a hold of how Jim Butcher writes his characters. So if, like, I say, you see Bitters, you see a very insecure guy, kind of mousy looking, maybe with a little gut, and you know, you already have it in your head. You know what Bitters looks like. You've read his description over 17 times. Every time he's brought into the book, the new book that you're reading, they give you a full description of what Butters looks like. You already know what he looks like, and they encapsulated everything. So whenever you're writing your character up, you use adjectives to describe yourself, and they give you the examples from the actual fiction, so you can see how the author wrote his universe, so you can fit into it.
Like I said, it might have just been the DM, because I got burnt on Shadowrun, and I got people telling me, "Dude, you love Shadowrun."
No.
Well, it's not all. It's sometimes it's the DM. Sometimes we don't all have the right temperament for any game out there.
Right.
However, what I'll say is, one thing that this weekend taught me was that with the right group of guys, I'm not sure about girls, definitely guys, the system is almost irrelevant, because if you all know the system and you're there to have fun and play the game, there's very few systems that I think I couldn't play with my friends, because we all get along well. We know each other. There might be systems we don't like, and we'll just skip those. But I mean, we played 13th Age. We played Dungeon Crawl Classics. A couple of sessions of that. That was different.
How did you like it?
It's very swingy. The funnel was all right, but I don't know how often I would want to do it.
I don't think I'd want to run a campaign of it.
Right. It's a good one-shot deal, I think, or something short like what we were doing over the weekend. But yeah, campaign, I don't think so.
Not really.
One of the weird things about it, and I think what makes the book so thick, is the spell descriptions.
Yes.
I mean, each spell has a page, maybe two, of description, and a lot of it is not the base spell, but the effects of when you roll the die, and then if you roll outside of the norm, all of the different things that can happen. And I know at one time I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Seeing it in the book, I was like, oh, that's a lot of description, especially for a spell that generally only just does like a D8 plus 2 or 3, whatever it is. Oh, somebody's got some sound. Unauthorized sound.
Google Files, the phone plans by Google. Thank you.
So yeah, but we played a lot of different kinds of games, and we had fun at all of them, even some board games. And we had fun because we're friends, we're pals, and that was probably more than anything else.
You've been playing together for about at least 10 years with most of those guys, right?
Yes, at least 10, some of them 15. And with
God.
Randy, we were 13 and I'm 55, so long time.
I didn't even know you were that old. Wow.
I aged moderately well, I guess.
Well, let's see.
A lot of grays and some bald there. Can't help that.
I don't know.
Might end up if this all goes away, I might end up having to shave the whole thing off.
See,
it worked well for me.
Yeah.
I just got tired of looking at my hair and trying to style it. I'm done. I have fine hair.
Right.
How long have we been gaming together there, Seamus? I mean, off and on. I want to say about 15, 16 years.
Since 2006.
Yeah.
When I moved to the area.
So that changes a lot of this stuff too, I think, because the more the closer that you are, longer you've played together, I think the more you can expand your gaming, unless you all just want the one experience, which is fine too.
I mean, if I sit down as I do every other weekend now at Bruce's game, I know what I'm getting myself into because I've known him for about 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
Jade's the same way. If I sit down at a table, even if you switch systems on him, I know the general way the way he DMs. So it normally turns out to be a pretty good time.
Right. All right. So mimics, use them often. Teach your players how to play.
Yes.
And just remember, they don't have to be a chest or a door. They can literally be anything.
Right.
They could be you.
Objects for sure.
Yeah.
Objects, definitely.
What was it? Those mirrors of opposition or whatever they call when they make a dark version.
That's a
mirrors
magic
of
item.
Opposition.
Yeah.
I love those.
Nasty thing.
That's a cursed item.
Yeah.
Not the way I use it.
That's I hate my life.
Well, the first time, once you know it, I mean, the first time you encounter it, it's a cursed item, and you have to watch yourself. After that, maybe you can employ it, but generally don't know what a cursed item is before, generally speaking. You mean you use it as a weapon as a DM?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll put it in a hall of mirrors.
Oh, well, that's perfectly fine.
Because
that's how you find them. That's right. Not, you don't just have it by itself with a skeleton next to it and telling you that it's bad, you put it next to a bunch of other mirrors, and you can't tell what it is until you find out.
Well, being well traveled and having been to the Palace of Versailles and the Hall of Mirrors, like any one of those big mirrors could have been a mirror of opposition in a game setting. So that's what I used. I put like 2 or 3 different mirrors of opposition in the same hallway. And they decided to run away from the copy of, I think it was a ninja at the time, because the ninja walked in front of the mirror first, and everyone feared the ninja's abilities in 3.5 because they were broken as hell. So everybody decided to run away from the shadow, the evil ninja, not realizing they were making copies of themselves going down this hallway, and now they had to fight multiple copies.
Yay.
We ended up having to switch off because in the very beginning, it's like, well, I'll just take myself because I know what I would do. That wasn't working well for us. So I'm like, so I'll take the cleric. I'll take this. I'll take that. And we eventually won the day, but it was a bad day.
Oh, sure. That's hilarious. All right. Keep your players on their toes. Don't just let them walk around like they own the place. So,
especially,
player expectations are something to think about. All right. Rookie DM mistakes. So,
They happen.
They happen, and they happened to me this weekend. I don't DM all that much, and I did a hurry up prep for the game I had for the weekend, and I missed some stuff. Like we were talking about the gem eyes reform into gargoyles.
Yep.
So I'm gonna have to think about that. So that and a few other things. The dust of sneezing and choking. Since I did like scan ahead, but I just kind of glanced over that. I figured I didn't know it was a cursed item, and it was so deadly. So I said, okay, no problem. They're going to throw that at him. And there was another thing. It was very powerful, high defensive stats. Oh, well, the gargoyles themselves, the DR on them is pretty high. Probably a little higher than it should be. But lack of
One of my
not giving yourself enough time to properly review something that you're using, it was a rookie mistake of mine. So you got to give yourself some time to look at that stuff. So,
Joe, are you familiar with the potion of stuttering and stammering?
that sounds familiar, but it's a potion, and it's a cursed deal, and then you
start talking like the ASDF 123 Legend of Ron Burgundy sort of thing that happened on the air, where they're just typing in whatever, they're just reading off whatever the teleprompter says,
and it coughed up a bunch of garbage, right?
Yes. So you turn into so you give that to the wizard. You'll have 2 potions there. They're both blue color. One of them is clearly labeled Cure Potion or Curing Serious Wounds Potion. And the other one unlabeled next to it, same color of blue. Because it's how it's supposed to be bundled in. And so, like, somebody would be like, I need that potion. Give me the other one. And it happens to be the wizard that they give the potion to. Hold on.
Pretty much.
No, it turns them into the, like, if you ever seen what was that? Buck Rogers. Beto.
That too. Yeah, Cal, it was thrown together at last minute, so set your expectations accordingly.
Items
Sorry about
get
that.
you in trouble. Items, especially if I'm not 100% aware of what the item does. It's like, was it Racers or a Glove of Falcons, which is a ranger spell that was put on an item. It gives you like crazy abilities as an archer that for the price, it's too low budget. I don't exactly remember everything it did, but +2 on perspective,
Perception.
perception, helped your archering. It just did a lot of things, and it is like out of the core book or out, an item that's right out of the core book or the dungeon manual. And I didn't think anything about it because it didn't come out of any of the weird books or splat books. It came out right out of the one of them, the core set. And I'm like, oh sure, whatever. Next thing I know, I was like, whoa, how much did he pay for that? He's like, well, I paid this. I'm like, no. No.
Right. So yeah, Twiggy. That's Twiggy from Buck Rogers.
What's up, Buck?
But so I think one of the mistakes. Oh, what's that, Bruce?
This is just a regular bar of soap. It is a Duke Cannon bar of soap.
Oh, are you doing a commercial?
No, I'm going to say something real quick. As a DM, I do think that you should have, at some points, the players should find like something helpful, and that universal solvent in your D&D game is only, or your Pathfinder is only 50 gold worth of product placement that you have to drop into a layer, or bundle one of those or throw one of those in a horde sometime, because I think if you allow the players to have an out, but they don't remember putting this bar of soap, this magical bar of soap in their bag 4 or 6 sessions ago, and it gets lost at the bottom of their giant smelly leather bag of magical shit because they can't afford a bag of holding yet. Then Tommy fights an adherer or a mimic or something. It's an easy way for you to be like, I think I gave you guys something for this a year ago, but you just don't remember it, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Look through your bag. Look through your bag, guys. Because
players
will forget about stuff.
Right. Same for like sovereign glue and a few other kind of edge case things you can throw in there. That I think that one of the things that third edition did wrong was encourage the magic item market, where you get your treasure and you go buy what you want.
Yeah,
it's a mistake.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it as a DM, and I don't mind it as a player.
Well, of course you don't mind it as a player.
I mean, even as a DM, I kind of stole a concept from Jade here with my magic shop, but it only shows up in big cities. You don't find it in small towns. You have to go to metropolises of whatever world you go to find one. And there's only one. There's not like Walmart, Target, Kmart, for those who remember Kmart.
You didn't play Tolus, did you?
What? No.
You never played Tolus, did you?
No.
Because Tolus had numerous magic shops. You just had to know where to look.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea.
I don't think bringing in one into your world in a major metropolis that your players may never get to is
it's like not having it then. So good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the magic shop that you're talking about there, Cigar, is it was by invite only. So you had to, in the game, do something to impress the proprietor of this shop to get a key. The key, if plugged into any door with the proprietor's sigil on it, would open into the extra dimensional shop. Otherwise, it would just be a regular door. And it was by invite only. Now, I would only pass out that key to 1 or 2, sometimes 2, never more than that, characters, if they did something truly impressive to the proprietor or fulfilled a major request of the proprietor of the shop. But it was always in-game reasons that they had access to this shop. Now, that doesn't mean that they could just buy anything. The proprietor would be like, yeah, I can probably get that for you, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you this adventure. Do this adventure,
well, that's
and
cool.
I'll procure the item for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, I mean,
But not
That's
just
how I always
having
ran that.
Yeah, just not just whenever the characters have a load of cash, they can just magically
Because
buy everything they want.
The
That's weird.
load of cash was more of, hey, go buy supplies, go buy things you need, go buy information you need to complete this quest. You want
Retainers
the
that
item?
you can throw to find traps.
Right, or that, if you want this magic item from this proprietor of this shop, you're gonna have to spend an amount of gold equal to half, maybe equal to, or even time and a half of the item's actual value, just in going to find the information you need for this quest or doing things that this quest might require.
Right. That's a much better way of doing it.
I do. When we're at the magic shop, I will do a D100, and I will say you have this percentage chance that they actually own it. But if they're asking for simple simple things like low level rings of protection, low level this, low level that, then I cut down the percentage because it's most likely going to have this. Now, if they're wanting like a ring of wish, no. Sorry, I don't. I only have one of those, and it's mine. Or unless you want to do this, this, and this for it.
I think one of the biggest mistakes as a young GM that I would make was I would let the players have access to the Dungeon Master's Guide or equipment books or whatnot. So that to me was probably mistake one. Letting them have access to this plethora of material on, things I didn't even read yet. I hadn't even gotten a chance to read all those magic items and what their possibilities were. So that was definitely mistake number one, is you have to be well read on the game systems, mechanics, and or game breaking devices.
Oh, sure. And that's the thing. If you're not familiar with all the stuff out there, there's no telling. I mean, I remember whenever this was Pathfinder, though, a lot of times when they came out with a new book, there were magic items in there that we would look at and like, oh, this is only 1,000 gold pieces. I can get 3 of them. Like they had this shirt that essentially was a haste shirt, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And there was no saying in there that you couldn't just wear a bunch of them. And it was basically, if you wear one, I can't remember how many rounds you got of haste, but then you just take off the one shirt, and then you have the other shirt, and boop, and keep going. But once people did that, they had to put out they nerfed it and said you can only wear one at a time, which it does make sense that you should. Probably the DM should probably say, nah, you can just do that with one. You can't wear a bunch of them. And I think they restricted the power of it, so wasn't as powerful as it was for 1,000 gold pieces. But it's the problem of having a huge amount of source material that I don't really think they vet it very well. They just like, oh, this sounds cool. A little bit of play testing. It works all right. We'll put it out. And you get a magic item book, you get a race book, you get class book, and then you get class book 2 and race book 2, and so many things that aren't really tested that ends up skewing the game in for a lot of people, an unplayable direction. And that's what happened to 3rd edition and Pathfinder both, to me.
Well,
I'm going to address the chat here, Shadow and Sun. You say, how is that a mistake? It's their money. If they want to buy the DMG, then they can buy the DMG and learn how to become a game master. I don't disagree with that statement. My mistake was giving them access to my personal DMG and my equipment books without actually having read them at the time. Because we were all still new to the game, because this was back when 3.5 had just come out. I hadn't had an opportunity to read through all the books yet. I was also a very inexperienced player and game master at the time. This was at the very beginning of my years into the hobby, so I hadn't read the material. So I wasn't well versed on some of the power some of the things could compensating, or rather giving way too much treasure out, because I didn't know how to read the treasure tables at the time. So that was my mistake. Is I just giving them access to the books. Yeah, here, read through it and pick out things you want. I'll see about making it happen. I was being over accommodating as a GM, so that to me was my big mistake. I have to read the material beforehand, and if I don't agree with the things that publisher might put out, like this item throws 3 shurikens, and you can put triple on it, and throw 27 shurikens. Yeah, I'm going to probably say no.
Now, my question: would you say no to Orb of Sunlight? After knowing.
Based on its price, no, because in theory, you're only ever going to be able to carry 1, and if you have multiples, that means you're probably above 20th level, and if you've spent a good chunk of your money on multiple orbs of sunlight, well, okay, you've got them. Sure, it'll kill a vampire or put a wraith into stasis, pretty much. That's fine, if that's what you want to spend your money on. But I'm using up your resources.
Yeah,
that's
no, I get that.
I'm using resources.
That's why having a cleric in the party is good, because they just cast daylight, and you don't need to have a cleric in a box.
The Orb of Sunlight, when I bring that up, it's a very pointed story, because Bruce made me think of it, because about putting something in your bag and you're just forgetting about it. Mike told me and a few other people, if you buy something, write it down in a notebook, because if I can't see it, you don't have it. So we were getting our ass kicked by shadows for a long while there in his campaign, and I came across this Orb of Sunlight, and we were 20, because this was your epic level campaign. So I bought 2.
Yeah, you were like level 18 at the time.
Yeah. So I was able financially to buy 2. It did strap me. I ended up never using them. Now go forward about 4 or 5, 6 levels, and they're in the bottom of my bag, but they're dated in the notebook and where they came from. We're fighting a vampire, and I'm just going through all my shit because I'm damn near out of ammunition. I'm hurting. I'm hurting 3 ways from Sunday.
A vampire?
What a vampire? We're fighting vampire.
So not just a common, ordinary garden variety vampire.
No.
Okay,
he was epic level. Again, this was like level, at that point in time, they were level 27, 28, and the vampire was he had character levels, and I think he might have actually been a Dread Knight as well. I can't remember the exact stats of him, but he was an absolute beast, and he was a master at grappling. So he would get a hold of like either the cleric, because that's who we would target first, is the cleric, to take out any potential healing or daylight spells. And I think I dropped the cleric with negative levels or level drain. I can't remember.
The party was hurting. As I was saying, I'm going through my notebook of shit that might help. Oh, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. Oh, fuck. I still have these orbs of sunlight. Mr. DM. Yes. Do these work the way I think they work against that? How long have you had these? Since that date. He's like, fuck, yes.
I wasn't expecting the orbs of sunlight.
Well, you learn as a DM.
Yep. So
if you don't want them to be used, don't give them out.
It was also 27th level, and I didn't really care at that point.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we're talking about rookie mistakes as a DM.
Rookie mistakes.
I think my biggest rookie mistake, and actually I believe Bruce was at the table for this, was the first game that I actually and truly DM'd. I had 11 people sitting at my table. You can join it. Fuck you, you're not cool, but you can join. Basically, it was everyone who had played in Bruce's game, because I was in most of Bruce's games at that time. I said, hey, I'm going to be starting up a game if anybody wants to play. What? You're going to DM? Oh, I'm there. And when you get that type of thing, you're like, okay, maybe I'll get 5 or 6. No, every single person showed up, and I'm sitting here going, and Bruce can attest to this. I had the oh fuck look on my face of
How many?
11.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, it was. I mean, for my ego, it was amazing. For actually trying to keep control, it was horrible. It didn't. Actually, it was a 3.5. It was a World of Warcraft, the 3.5 World of Warcraft. I was running that system, and of course, the only which upset a couple people. The only one I locked out was the Forsaken, for the simple fact of they are always going to be horde. Period. The group could be any other race they wanted. But the thing is that they had to choose which side they were going on. So, if in my mind, there are orcs that work with the Alliance. There are Tauren that work with the Alliance. There are goblins that work with the Alliance. You've got all the races. They work with one side or the other. There's even humans that work with the Horde because they're not happy with the way that the Alliance is running. But it was literally, it was great. Although I think the best thing that came out of it was Pandaren got an automatic +5 to any interactions with children.
Badass. I always thought that was interesting. Pandaren came off roughly a year before the Kung Fu Panda movies came out.
But the thing, well, actually, no, they were out in lore before that. The actual game itself, yes, they finally pulled them in. But it was actually pretty fun because at that point I started everybody at 4th level, because typically most of the races, except for human, or maybe humans did, I'll have to double check that, had what they call racial levels. So and usually it was 3 levels. So they could take the racial levels. Yeah. And basically they could take those, use those, and then they would be a first level of fighter, bard, whatever.
Gotcha.
But the racial levels gave them like in some cases natural armor. But the Forsaken were so broken because it was like +1 strength, +1 natural armor, +1 strength, +1 natural armor. And the final one was +2 strength, +2 natural armor.
Wow.
So yeah. So I mean, you could literally that's the reason I said, yeah, you can play anything you want except for that.
Huh.
And my wife, of course, we weren't married at the time, but my wife was in another iteration of that game, and she got mad at me because she was playing a Murloc, and she was, and I said, "Oh, well, you find a necklace of tongues, so you can be understood by everybody." And she goes, "I'm not going to wear that." I go, "What?" She goes, "No, I'm perfectly happy with nobody understanding what I'm saying." So it's kind of if you want to think of it like the Wookiee language. They can't speak any language but the Wookiee language. Anyone else can learn the language, but they can't speak anything but. So yeah. But yeah, that I think was one of my biggest rookie mistakes, is just the amount of people at the table. And in trying, it was literally herding cats and dogs in a snowstorm, uphill both ways. Yeah, it was just bad.
Everybody has to be so on their game for that to work well. That many people.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and I mean, you can. I've seen tables of 8 or 9, and I mean, I'm going to point to this guy right here because he's pulled it off, but he's also was at that time a very seasoned GM. So, and I will say this, between him and another one of the guys who was running a lot of the games, by the name of Sean, did help me navigate through that a little bit. The game didn't last but a few sessions, just because they're starting to get infighting because one guy decided he was going to play a goblin, and the gnome was going to be his mount. So he'd get up on her shoulders, hold her pigtails, and say, "You're my mount." She got a little annoyed with that. But
Oh,
That
sure.
wasn't me.
no,
That
it wasn't you. No, that wasn't you. It was hilarious, but that wasn't you. He was also running that goblin with the Ferengi rules of acquisition, which was
Smart goblin.
amazing.
Huh?
Which was amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I was running 8 people, I was in both campaigns. We were doing Curse of the Crimson Throne from Paizo, and then we were also running the Kingmaker Adventure Path. And I think somebody just dropped. Jade just dropped.
There he is.
Was that oops?
Yeah, it was an oops.
Uh-huh.
The tab. My bad.
Oopsie. Trying to close something else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Okay, so go ahead, Bruce.
No, I was just running 2 campaigns, alternating weeks, and I remember we finished Curse of the Crimson Throne, and then I handed off the Kingmaker to another player, to another GM, and he torpedoed it very quickly. Couldn't run the game, couldn't run all those players. Kind of sad to see that one disintegrate, but it happens.
Oh yeah, because the 2 games you're talking about, I was in, and we were at the game room in Washington, and that was a huge table to begin with, and you had the numbers to fill it.
Yeah, that was one place where I realized if I advertise I'm going to run a game, I'm going to fill seats. And I'm not saying I'm a great DM, but those people liked the way I ran.
Yeah.
And I had Mike Mahalik and Gary, who was the chaplain that was over there in Mahalik's group? Tim? Was his name Tim?
No.
Ogre?
I can't remember. No, he's a preacher.
Right.
I can't remember
Is
his
this the guy who
name.
married me? Me and Karanda?
No. I don't remember his name.
But
it's been too many years.
The guy I'm thinking about rode a motorcycle.
But
know who you're talking
I
about.
really enjoyed that store. That was a good store.
Mm-hmm.
When I left, it went downhill, and I'm sorry.
I have to say
it was a perfect storm type situation, unfortunately.
So, Bruce, what would you say would be a rookie mistake that you've made that you remember?
Allowing race class combinations that I should never allow at a table. I'll just focus on D&D. Allowing for race class combinations. If I go with my first rookie mistake, it was allowing a very experienced BSer into my Star Wars D6 game, and he pretty much saw through all of the problems that I would throw at the players, and through powers of BSery, he was able to mitigate and defang all the problems that I threw at them because he was very experienced. And there was another Star Wars DM that just quit running that store because this guy sucked the fun out of any game. And it wasn't just like a contest between me and him, but the other players didn't get to speak because he would hog the table, and I didn't kick him out.
Right.
That was my fault. Not saying no.
Well, part of that goes to the players too. Is if you're not letting anybody else speak, you as a player have every right to say, "Hey, I'm going to talk here." That's what I'll do. So yeah, I get that. So any more on the rookie mistakes? They happen. They don't need to be the ruination of you. Just roll with it.
Yeah, just learn. That's all.
Yep.
I mean, you can learn from any endeavor, even if you run a game that is an absolute mitigated disaster. You can still learn something from it. There's still teachable moments that will come out of that endeavor. And you'll think back on it years from then, and it'll probably be one of the defining moments that you and your close friends or the people that were around you will watch you grow out of that into something to be pleasant with at a table. Because I've had so many tables self-destruct because I was a bad DM. And I had to learn. I had to get my face busted by numerous players that wanted to run a game and they wanted to have a game their way. And I just tried to, okay, I'll try to run the game for you, but it never worked well for me. I had to learn how to say no. And other players at my table, they would send me messages like, I really don't like this player, or I really don't like this married couple here. Garrett was at a table that I played with where there was nothing but married couples at the table. And after about 4 sessions, it disintegrated because they were not getting along.
I there for a long time, I wouldn't run for boyfriends and girlfriends unless they were married because I didn't want their drama to spill over into my game.
Even if they're married, that happens. So
With marriage, with you guys, if a couple is married, I'd hope that they have the concept of saving faith. So if they're having issues, they could just take it home. Where I've been, yeah, I have gotten to the point where I've kicked people out of my game and off my table, and it was probably the 3rd or 4th month of gaming at the game shop where I was just trying to appease everybody so I could fill my table. Where I got to the point, I was like, nope. I know the owner is going to back me on this play. Get the hell out.
Yeah, don't negotiate with terrorists.
now, see, the one thing that I wish I could do, there was a person who was up at the game room who did this. He ran like a Tuesday night group and a Wednesday night group. Same game system, was running them in roughly the same type of manner. And then he said, okay, well, we're going to be meeting on both Tuesday and Wednesday this week. He had one group in one room, the other group in another room. Jeez. And he had he had a battle mat set out on both sides. Essentially, he was writing down everything that happened in one room, going to the other room and said, okay, this is the time where you can strategize on what your next move is, goes into the other room, plays out that, the return goes, and it's back. He was actually had all the players were fighting each other. They did not even realize that until the very end of the night when the other group came out of the other room and go, wait, what are they doing here? He goes, well, you two guys have been fighting each other all night.
Well, what did they think he was doing when he'd leave the room so much?
Well, he thought he was going to go plant. He's told him that he had to go and, work the battle from the other side.
Oh.
It didn't click in their brains that it was another set of players. He thought he had another table set up and he was actually running stuff. And then coming back, and both sides thought that that's what he was doing. Did not realize that he actually had a PvP type thing going on with all his players. And
that was Mahalik. He was really good.
That's funny.
He is really good.
And it was just amazing just to see the look on their faces when they all saw each other. Because, I mean, they all know each other anyway because, all up there at the store, everything else. But
it's like I would Cabin Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I would love to be able to eventually do something like that. But I at this point, I've DM'd for a lot. I've played a lot. I still don't feel comfortable enough to even try to even pull that off.
I was joking last week on Table Breakers where I was going to have Jade and Kai come into my Monday night campaign to play the big bad at the end of the story. And I'm not saying a damn word to the other players until that night. They're just going to, I'm like, okay, these people are here to do this. And I'm just going to sit back and watch the fireworks.
I would say, as my final mistake to avoid for new and young game masters would be setting up a game or a story with a character that you as the GM control and make the main character. Avoid that at all costs because your players are going to mutiny. They are going to put that character in positions to die easily because it's not about your character. It's about their characters. Don't fall into that pit trap. I know I have at least once fallen into that pit trap. It just makes for a mess, and the players don't appreciate it. They never have.
The DMPC is probably the ultimate DM sin, I think.
Well,
Because they're
it
trying to be the
depends.
player and the DM at the same time.
It depends
Well,
on the scenario.
No,
Yeah,
I'd say
exactly.
No, it doesn't.
no.
Well,
Don't
no,
ever do it.
It does.
There's
It
no
does.
forgivable piece for that.
There is if that is your big bad and they don't realize it.
At that point, they're an NPC, not a player character.
I guess,
there's
yeah.
a huge difference.
Yeah,
And
if you have a ringer
run-
Yeah.
that they've hired as a
Oh, yeah.
retainer and they're actually the bad guy, that's not a DMPC. The DMPC is someone that you have in the party and then he levels whenever everybody else levels or he gets experience points and gets to share the treasure
No,
and he's part of the group. And then
I will
no.
I will do that occasionally if a hole needs to be filled in the party, like a cleric. Like nobody likes
Yeah.
playing a band-aid. So I will make a follower cleric that will level with the party, but that the story's not focused on that character. That character couldn't give a one flying rat's ass about what's going on. They're there because they were hired for a job.
See, that's basically the example I was going to use is if I'm
at that
running a
point-
party and they don't have a cleric. I'm not.
Could be them.
At that point, they're not a player character. They're a DM NPC because they're two-dimensional. They don't have a
Yes.
personality really, or they have a personality, but it's not congruent to or part of the main story. It is not the main story.
Yeah, I wouldn't even do that. If they don't pick a cleric, they don't pick a cleric. They'll feel the pain, or they'll be careful after somebody drops. Clerics don't have to be the Band-Aid.
Yeah, I know.
I
So-
agree with you. It's just, I've ran it, the cleric a few times. He doesn't get any treasure. He doesn't get a vote in anything that's going to be done. He is just there to put Band-Aids on their knees and tell them, okay, sweetie, you'll be okay. That's the only position that he has. And I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. It is a DM sin when you do that.
Right. And I avoid that like it is the plague.
Learn English to go back to Hades.
Haiti.
Um,
Right. So
Yeah,
what
that-
he's saying is that you're describing an NPC, and I said you don't have a DMPC, and then we talked about that. But I don't think you should even put a NPC cleric in the party just because they didn't pick a cleric as a player character. I think that's me. You guys do what you want, but
Joe?
Well,
that's a
if they hire them,
yeah, if they hire one, that's different. But if you are trying to solve a problem that the players have made for themselves because of a supposed hole in their party structure, it's kind of holding their hands a little bit. But,
Joe, have you ever seen the movie The Gamers Darkness Rising?
oh, sure.
Remember the cop paladin that got ingratiated with the party at the start of that little module?
Oh, you know what? I didn't see Darkness Rising. I saw the Gamers, but I didn't see Darkness Rising.
I'll have to find
yeah,
it.
that's the second one.
The second
It
one.
was
I haven't
amazing.
seen the second one.
I've seen it.
I'm about done with this damn hut. Now I just got to start gluing shit.
So yeah, I mean, we all have different styles, and if you want to throw in a PC to plug a hole in the party structure, especially if you have a small group. I mean, that's different. This is different DMing styles, but
what was the little number you gave Baron? 11 for how many people showed up at your game?
Yeah, 11.
You know, I was sort of thinking about that, and as we're talking, when I was doing a paid DM, I think the most numbers I got was was like 8, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You half show up tonight. Tomorrow, I'll run for the other half. This is how we're gonna do this. Because, yeah, that's a crazy 8's too many. I think 6 is the golden number. 5 really
depends on the group, the makeup at the table, and what the temperament of the DM is. Some people love large groups, like Shadow and Son. He was saying he had a group of 21 people in the chat.
There's not enough cocaine in the world. I mean, Mountain Dew.
He's all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Well, I was feeling a little draggy before we started. I have an energy drink here, but it's late, and there was no way. I thought about drinking it, but it's what, 11:30.
Oh, I understand that. It's 2:30 here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's that is when one player plays extra characters. I don't even like
I'd
that.
rather not do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played in games like that, and I mean, if they wind up, burning a feat, taking leadership, or getting, henchmen
Leadership
or
drives me
whatnot,
crazy.
and I mean, it's definitely, something. I mean, I've seen people that have taken that leadership, 2, 3, 4 times, and they have their own little mass army following them, basically. To help bolster, but when they start doing that, that's when, as a DM, you have to start amping it up.
There's more to play characters at the table. I mean, more. If there's more, if the party gets larger and larger, sure.
Exactly.
That's
when you start ramping stuff up.
If I'm in a campaign where the module says your players really need to take leadership, I'll bite the bullet. But if I'm not and I won't take leadership. I don't like it as a feat. I think it should be RP'd out, not just, ding, I filled a hole. Can I now have a person? Yeah, I'm talking about your game, Jade, where the book you said, Wrath of the Righteous.
Leadership. Yeah, you've taken leadership in 3 of my games. Not the one where where it gave you a free minion, but you've taken it in 3 times in 3 different games.
Yeah, I know. I regret it each time.
So, okay then. Do you know what that means?
Stop doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. But I agree with you when you made that comment that it shouldn't be a feat that you plug a hole with. It should be RP'd out.
Yeah. If you want a wizard to follow the party, go hire a wizard. If you want a cleric, to give you supporting heals, go hire a cleric. Go to the church and say, "Hey, we need a backup person to help us, through some tough times. We promise they'll be out of the fight and they'll be there to, back us up and heal us or buff us." That's something you handle with RP, and you can bring in like a character that's 2 or 3, maybe 4 levels lower than the party, and they're just there for supplemental. They're not there to be part of the main crew, but they're a hireling.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's good stuff.
Or you hire out stripper healers.
You're like, them succubuses.
No, you just give them a sign, and it says, "We are the distraction."
Oh, no. It's like one group we had. It was the part-timers, because we always had a rotating group. We had a core group that would come every week, but we had some people who couldn't come. So it was like, okay, well, we're going to set up our sign on the table, the part-timers. And literally we would rotate new people into the group, and that's how we would do it. We'd have it was kind of like a little job fair kind of thing. We just set up a sign on, we had a sign, that we'd set up on the table, and the bard would, we had a guy who was playing the bard. He would do the interview right there on the spot, and vet everybody, and then yes or no, and then they signed on the line, and
Don't forget the
I
bunny
think that's
clause.
and then they had to agree to the bunny clause. That is correct.
If you get cajoled or confused or charmed person, we have every right. We reserve every right to polymorph you into a bunny, and that way you're no harm to anybody.
Oh,
Yeah, if
well,
you
sure.
become mind controlled or whatever, that's what would happen with the bunny clause.
Right. So to wrap this up, we're going to go around. I mean, unless anybody has something more they want to add to any point of the discussion. It's 11:30 my time, 11:40. I'm about to turn into a pumpkin twice.
I don't want you to turn into a pumpkin.
So I'm old man. So I like this end point where we're talking about the hirelings, and it also applies to domain play if you want to have that in your game. That shouldn't come down to feats or any of that. That should be part of the
RP.
The RP part. Yeah. It's good stuff. And then you can have something like Rapanathuk where it is a wide mishmash of different challenges. And you don't worry about the character level. They have to run when they're get in over their heads. They have to be careful when they're stomping around the dungeon. You don't worry about all that crap. Anyway, we're going to start with Jade. Tell us about you and where people can follow you at.
Well, right now I don't have any content available on YouTube. I have been working things up, but life keeps kicking me when I'm ready to start recording. So you can find me at Jade's Tabletop Tavern on YouTube. I think I'm going to start posting videos in June. At this point, it's just been a really tough couple months.
I get that. I would love to do some extra content beside our live stream once a week, but it can be tough to fit that into a busy schedule. Oh, okay. How about you, Cigar?
Well, you can find me at the Cigar DM for YouTube. I do have some video ups. Most of the videos are either Gatekeepers or Table Breakers. I do have 2 videos now up with Shadow and Stone, which we'll be doing another one this coming Sunday, where we will be reviewing and talking about the 1970s, early 80s Crash of the Titans to the modern day Crash of the Titans that was made in early 2000, mid 2000s, somewhere in that era. And you can also find me tomorrow at Table Breakers, where we'll be talking about gaming and all your gaming wonders.
Yeah, we at Biggest Geekus just did a little comparison of those 2, Clash of the Titans, 1980, 81, and 2010. We did that too. So watch both and compare and contrast. Baron G-Rock.
As I mentioned on the Friday Chill stream, my wife is in the hospital, so my content has not been the prime. I've been dealing with that. So, but you can find me. Search Baron G-Rock. I do want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support after the Friday Chill stream and everything else. It was definitely, thank you for that.
I didn't get a chance to watch it because I was at Cabin Con, but
that's okay. That's okay.
I will get the wife together with me. We'll have you in our prayers. Your wife too.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, she had her first dialysis yesterday, and I believe another one today. So yeah. I'll just kind of go there, and but I do have quite a few videos up, not only on YouTube but also on Odyssey and Rumble. It is all across the board Baron G-Rock. So just look for it, and you'll see it.
Good deal. Bruce.
Hello. And tomorrow night we're going to be running an episode of Table Breakers. which I believe Jade was urging us to find a topic to discuss. And if Garrett's going to be available, I want to revisit a topic with him. If he's not, then we'll pull one out of that grand list of topics that Jade has prepared for rainy days, and we'll go with that. I do a tabletop stream every 2 weeks where I don't do things that we talk about in Table Breakers because my players that I have really appreciate me not doing the things that we talk about in Table Breakers, and that's fine. They're like, no, we don't want to do domain play. Please don't give us domain play. Okay, fine. But we've had that game going for over a year and a half now, which was off the ashes of a previous game. So it's working, and I look forward to it. Joe, I put something in your Discord, so
I saw the alert.
You have some viewing material there whenever you so choose. Go ahead, sit down with some popcorn. If the wife plays, I think she would like it too. And if you guys could, just give a few positive thoughts or prayers for Baron G-Rock and his family over the next week or two while they adjust to their new schedule, that'd be great.
Will do. And you are Bruce of Dick's Division.
Yes.
Out there in the interwebs.
Highly esteemed Dick's Division.
It's a very small group. It's a very small division. Very small division.
Well, we are bolstered by Vatchguard. We are
not
bolstered by Vatchguard. The Vatchguard safeguard the Dick's Division. They hide us well. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and I am Joe from Biggest Geekus. I and my friend Randy run that weekly at 7:30 every Tuesday until we can find more days we can do more content. We are just weekly, and it's a long form live stream. Come on by and give us a like, hopefully, or subscribe. Subscribe to everybody here that has a thing you can subscribe to, a thing you can like, and comment. And thank you for coming by tonight and watching our sorry butts talk about the RPG hobby as best as we can on short notice. Today was very short notice, so apologies for that as well.
I have it open every Wednesday. Come on, guys. Who wants to have Gatekeepers? I know you guys like to talk about your gaming. Let's go. Somebody host.
I'm good every other Wednesday, and some Wednesdays it's late Wednesday, like last 5 minutes, like it was tonight.
Yeah, and normally Wednesday's no good for me because I have Bible study, and I generally don't like to do anything after that and just hang out with the wife and stuff. But I went and said, I'll do it if nobody else does.
That's your first mistake.
Yeah. Thank you. So check out our various streams and things, and we will be signing off. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for coming by.